Welcome to Magical Moves, a show about moving to Orlando and the Central Florida area. I'm your host, Jason Diffendahl. Here with me is my co-host, Eric Gross of MagicalMoves.com.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming again, Eric. You come every week, it seems.
I know, yeah, here we are.
So today, we're going to talk about Clermont. Clermont's a pretty big area west of Orlando, and we're going to talk about what the town is like, amenities, restaurants, why you would want to move there, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive into some things like the roads and the traffic and all that jazz too.
Yep.
Try to give you guys a good feel for where you want to look based on your needs and wants of a house in Central Florida.
I'm so excited we're doing this episode because I love Clermont. It's one of my favorite places.
So
it's just so scenic.
Clermont has really grown on me a lot in the past, and we'll get into why as we go through the episode. But let's start out with our map here. Here's all of Central Florida, essentially. So you see Orlando. We're the little blue dot down here at the bottom. There we go. We're the little blue dot down here in Celebration at the WWNT studios. And then Clermont, as I said, is west of Orlando. So we're going to zoom in here. So Route 50 is a main thoroughfare that essentially goes from downtown Orlando east-west. And it goes west all the way over to Clermont and then further. But
yeah, fun fact, it was the first road in Orlando.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. And it's called Colonial Road in a lot of places, I guess, because that's where the colonists drove.
Yeah, maybe. I know that, not many people, I say more people call it Colonial.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can do Colonial or 50.
Yeah. So as you can see, Clermont is a little further outside of Orlando than something like Windermere or Horizon West or Winter Garden. Last episode we talked about Davenport, which is in the southwest. Clermont is kind of like the sister town of Davenport, just a little further north up Route 27.
Yeah, so they're very similar. They kind of bleed into one another when you're driving through Highway 27. But I'd say the feel is a lot different in Clermont. You've got hills, you've got lakes, you've got state parks, you've got really great trails that are connected, and that's a big draw for a lot of the people that decide to move there.
Yeah. So the other thing that I will say about Clermont is it other than being very pretty, it doesn't feel like you're in Orlando.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think Davenport still feels like you're in Orlando to some extent. Clermont definitely does not.
I've had a lot of buyers from the Midwest or even the East Coast, like Pennsylvania, Ohio area that go to Clermont and say it feels like more to where they're from versus Florida. You don't feel like you're in Florida as much.
I absolutely believe that, yes. Lake Louisa is probably one of the biggest lakes in Clermont. That is a pretty popular spot.
Yeah, that's a beautiful state park right there. I used to live pretty close to there, and I went there pretty often, and it's really great for biking or walking or just seeing the trails, and it's really nice to do in wintertime when the weather's like in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I will say is that until very recently, actually, it used to be kind of hard to get to Clermont from Disney World. Because, as you can sort of see on this map, there's not a lot of roads that go east-west.
Yep.
So, for the most part, you were either traveling back roads or you were taking 192 down here. You could take 192.
Or going 50 to 429 and over.
192 over, or your 50 and over. The sort of town area of Clermont is up here centered on 50 and 27. And then Mineola is almost like the little kid next door.
Yeah. Mineola, there is the city of Mineola, but it's very almost small. You would just say you're from Clermont.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But this intersection of 27 and 50, there's a lot going on there. There's tons of shopping centers, restaurants, and everything in this area of Clermont.
Have you been to downtown Clermont?
You mean west of 27? Is
Yeah,
that what
right
you're
here
talking
on
about?
Lake Mineola, right up here where it says Waterfront Park. Have you ever been to that area?
I have not been up there.
You should really take your family there one day. It's a great spot.
Is it?
Yeah, especially this time of year. It's so beautiful. There's good restaurants. It's kind of like, it's very similar to downtown Winter Garden.
Okay.
But a little bit, maybe not as fancy. It just
Okay.
feels a little bit more accessible
Yeah.
and just really, like, there's great restaurants there. There's Montrose Market, which is kind of like a food court, or what, if you've been to downtown Winter Garden, the
Yes.
Plant Street Market.
Plant Street Market,
It's the
yeah.
Claremont version of that.
Okay.
And
Is there a brew pub in there?
Yeah.
Because Crooked Can draws me to Plant
yeah,
Street Market.
Crooked Can is good. Yeah, I used to, after a bike ride, I'd go there and grab a beer.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep. But it's a cool spot for sure.
Yeah.
They've really done a lot with the downtown area to make it kind of more appealing. They've got a really great water park for kids there, and it's just like, like a splash park,
Right.
Not like Volcano Bay or anything like that. But yeah, the trails connect there to Winter Garden, so you could really bike from Clermont all the way to downtown Orlando on trails.
That's cool. That's I'm sure that's something that most people don't expect.
Yeah, or not everyone wants to do. I know that's a little niche, but
Right.
it is possible.
Yep. No, I've been all along 50 and up and down 27 up to the Florida Citrus Tower and up there and then all the way down to 192 and into Davenport. This will let's look over here. This will actually this may be a big deal for a lot of people. You'll see over here in the right there's a Costco. This Costco just opened like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And there used to be only really one Costco, and it was in Millennia.
And it was a nightmare.
And it was a nightmare
Yeah.
because there was no other Costcos
Yep.
south or west of Orlando until you get to Tampa. And so the one in Millennia was the only one you would go to. And it was a nightmare, and it was traffic, and it was insane. And now this one just opened a couple months ago, and it's spectacular.
Yeah, it's
It
nice.
is spectacular. It makes
That's the one you go to now?
That's the one I
Yeah.
go to now. And it makes living over here on the west side of Orlando so much better because I don't have to deal with Millennia traffic. So this Costco's technically in Oakland, and Oakland is a real small sort of little town.
Yeah, it's
There's
really
Oakland, but it's really tiny.
Sandwiched right between Winter Garden and Clermont. But
Yes.
most people just say you're from Winter Garden. You know what I mean? If you're in the Oakland, because
Yep.
it's right next to Winter Garden.
Yep. So that Costco is super attractive, being right there and easy to get to. The other thing that I'll mention, because we always talk about traffic in these
Yeah,
shows.
let's talk about the cons.
Let's talk about traffic. So I've driven on 50 enough in this region where really from sort of the Turnpike west to 27 and downtown Clermont, it's not too bad. There's a lot of lights, but there's not a lot of traffic. So it can be slow going depending on the lights, but you're not really like bumper to bumper traffic like
Yeah.
you are. When you
There's-
go 50 further east towards Orlando, you get to Ocoee and then east from there, then it's bumper to bumper traffic a lot of times.
Right, and I used to live in this area of Clermont, and my main concern or gripe is that I show homes everywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm expected to be in Oviedo, Davenport, Apopka, literally anywhere.
Right.
And so for me, the only way to get out of the Clermont area was to go down 50, Colonial. So.
Yep.
And it's just the design of where you live. I mean, we're surrounded by lakes, so there's not many other options.
Yep.
And so that's the only road you can take. So that was my concern. It wasn't huge, but that was just my concern with living there.
Right. As we talked about access, there's the other main road that I think I've driven on quite a bit is this Marsh Road.
Yep.
That goes from sort of the Winter Garden south of Winter Garden off of 429 and there's Horizon West. So you can kind of go up from Horizon West and then you go across Marsh Road to hit 27, and that hits 27 real close to Lake Louisa. That's not a great road to travel on because there's a lot of developments along there.
Yeah, and it's very like wine twists and turns,
twists
and
and
now there's
turns.
roundabouts too with the
And they've
neighborhoods.
added roundabouts when they've added the neighborhoods.
Yep.
So that was a way that I would get over to Clermont pretty frequently, and it's not ideal. But there's also a new way now, and it's down here. It's Schofield Road. Mm-hmm. So Schofield Road, this was just sort of repaved and reopened a couple of months ago.
Yep.
And it is sort of like the hidden secret highway to Clermont.
Yeah, where they're going to, it's designed around Olympus Village, which is coming to that area right where that lake is. Mm-hmm. That's going to be like an Olympic training area for athletes to do,
Yes.
whatever they, soccer, trail running, whatever.
And you mentioned Southern Hill Farms, which is a huge farm that's right along there.
Yep, that's a really cool place. I highly recommend that if you're looking for something to do like around the holiday time, like pumpkins or
like they
picking
have
blueberries.
pick your own
it's cool.
fruit and things like that. Yeah,
Really cool experience.
So now that road is opened, I guess until everyone figures out that it's open, that's a great way to scoot over to 27.
I have a story to tell. I took a buyer one time from Clermont to Hamlin, and it was right when I first started in real estate, and I didn't know that this road wasn't paved because I grew up in the area, but I just, you don't take every single road, you know what I mean? And so I was like, oh, just follow me. And it was like that orange clay, like almost the color of this test track orange. And I took the buyer on it, and I was in a sedan. He was in a sedan behind me, and our cars were just covered in red clay at the end of the day. And I was like, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's paved now.
No, it's paved, and it's very nice now. It's super easy to get through. And so that's you get to that off of Avalon Road in Winter Garden / Horizon West. And that's actually kind of nice because you're up right behind the Magic Kingdom, essentially. Mm-hmm. And if you're more looking at this Horizon West / Hamlin area, we talked about that on one of our earlier episodes. You should go back and watch that. But, to get over to Clermont now, it's much easier. And the thing that I like the most about it is, so over here on 27, right up, there's a lot of shopping centers up here now. There's a BJ's up here.
We got a Crumble Cookie that just opened about a year ago there.
You've got a Kohl's here, which is kind of one of the very few Kohl's in the area.
Yeah, that's true.
The only other one I know of is way over in the Loop off of Osceola Parkway.
Yep, there's one there too.
But there's a Kohl's over there. There's a BJ's over there, which is where I used to go before the Costco opened. Now I just go to both.
Oh yeah, I forgot they're getting a Dutch Brothers coffee too in the area. I just saw that on the map, and that's opening soon.
So there's a lot of stuff over there that's real easy to get to. The other thing I will put a plug in for, the reason that I started going over to this area was I was surfing Facebook one time, and I don't really do this often, and I know it's a bad idea, and I hate it. But I was surfing Facebook for some reason and found the Bagel Boy.
Yeah.
You heard of the Bagel Boy?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So the Bagel Boy is over right along Lake Louisa Road there, and they have really good bagels. Mm-hmm. And
I used to go there. Yeah.
And they're really cheap.
I used to live right over there, so yeah I know Bagel Brothers for sure.
And so I used to go over there to get bagels, even though it was a bit of a hike. But now that the Schofield Road is open, it's a lot quicker.
And the locals know too. If you're in Clermont, go to Donut King.
Donut King.
You got to go to Donut King. There's one in downtown Clermont, and it's exceptional.
I've never gone to Donut King, but that may be the next thing.
Yeah, you got to try it out. So I'd say like the vibe for Clermont is really kind of, you want a Winter Garden experience, but at a little bit cheaper price point.
Right.
It's kind of like in between Davenport and Winter Garden, not just geographically, but also kind of like vibe-wise.
Yeah. It's definitely, Winter Garden is kind of the fancy, bougie sort of.
One of the fanciest kind of country-feeling suburbs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Clermont's much more laid back than that. It's.
But they're both beautiful, though.
Oh yeah.
You have more access to lakes in Clermont than in Winter Garden.
You absolutely
Because Winter
do.
Garden, they're private.
The lakes are
The
you mean the
lakefronts
little
are
ones,
yeah, the lakefronts are
Okay.
mostly private.
unless you go to Lake Apopka.
Yeah, there's like the park there, but if you're actually in downtown Clermont, you can access the waterfront park more easily
Okay.
than in Winter Garden.
That's good. That's good. Well, I'll put in a little aside here about Lake Apopka. There's Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive right here on the map. We can see it. So my wife and daughters would go there pretty often, and it's only open like on the weekends, but it's a long drive that goes along the lake and into this sort of national park-like area, and there's always alligators
Yeah.
all over the place,
Yeah.
like huge ones. So if anybody ever comes to Florida and says, I want to go see alligators, well, first I'd send you to Gatorland.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you want to see gators in the wild, Lake Apopka Wildlife Drive has them by the hundreds.
Yeah, I'd say definitely see some natural Florida when you come here.
Yeah, right. And that's definitely one place to do it. So anyway, that's a little out of the way, but easy to access from Winter Garden or Clermont. So the other couple of things that I think we should talk about in Clermont, the Florida Citrus Tower.
Yeah, that's the
That's-
highest point in Central Florida.
That's it. You mean the tower is?
The
Or
land
it's
it's
the land
built
it's
on.
built on.
Yeah,
Okay,
the land
yeah.
it's built on.
Right. So that's kind of up at the top of a hill. Clermont is much more hilly than you expect Florida to be.
Yeah, for me it's mountains.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. But the Florida Citrus Tower is a very old structure that they built. I guess they built so that you could look out and see all of the citrus groves that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think they built it in the 50s or 60s, and it was before Disney came here, and it was kind of like the tourist.
1956.
Yeah, the tourist hotspot back in the day.
Yeah. You had things like the
There's a
Florida
president.
Citrus Tower.
There's a president museum there too, which is a little. I've never been, but I passed it. It's very small, probably the size of this room.
I mean, like Florida Citrus Tower, there was like Cypress Gardens. Those are all like the old Florida touristy things before Disney got here. So that's pretty neat to go to in Clermont there right off of 27. But I think for the most part, Clermont's a little further out. So I think Clermont's around the border of where I would be like, hey, let's just go to Disney today because we don't have anything better to do, right? Like it's a little bit more of a drive. It's probably 45 minutes to get to the parks, and so it's a little
Yeah.
more of it's a little
Depending
more
on
of a
where
thing.
you're at, yeah.
Little more of you have to plan to go to Disney versus spur of the moment, just pick up and go like you're going to the mall after work or something.
Right, I'd agree with that. I think anything more west of Clermont, you have to plan more to go to downtown
Yes.
Orlando or to the parks.
Yeah. So that's a drawback. Obviously, if you're moving to Orlando to be close to Disney and go to Disney every other day after work, Clermont's probably a little far for you. But if you're only
It's a
gonna
once
go,
a week or
Yeah,
twice a week
right?
kind of place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Is if you're going to go on, a day on the weekend or whatever, or even less than that, then Clermont's great because you're absolutely out of the tourist areas.
Yep.
You're much more into a sort of laid back Florida town.
Yeah, it's super residential in that area too.
Yeah.
In the downtown Clermont area. I'd say the more you move down 27, obviously the closer you are to Disney, the more non-residential it's going to be.
Right. But I think that's the other thing to mention about Clermont is it's not far off the Turnpike, right? So the Turnpike, crosses Colonial Road, also known as Route 50, here in Oakland, but sort of east of Clermont, west of Winter Garden. And that makes it super easy to get to a lot of places in Orlando because you can take the Turnpike and skip a lot of traffic. And if you want to go to Universal, for example, like Universal's right off the Turnpike exit. It's super easy to get there. I will even go on the Turnpike to Universal sometimes from Horizon West.
You'd go up 429 and down.
And down the Turnpike
I've done that.
because
I do that too.
because it's quicker. And the Turnpike usually is rarely trafficy.
Oh yeah, it's never bad.
So coming from Clermont and things like that, it's actually a lot easier to go to Universal than it is to go to Disney from the Clermont area, because you've got that turnpike there, and then you've got and for the same reason, you go down the turnpike a little past Universal and you're at 528, and then you hit right over to the airport. Yeah. So it's actually really easy to get to and that's the way I go to the airport too. Yeah. I will go all the way up 429 to the Turnpike to get to the airport, because it's so easy.
It looks like it's far away on the map, Clermont, and it's probably equidistant from downtown Orlando to Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
From Clermont, I'd say they're both within a 30-minute reach, because I lived over there, and I can confirm.
So there are some advantages in terms of traveling, depending on where you're traveling to. But having the Turnpike exit there in Clermont certainly makes a lot of things handy and accessible. And then obviously you can take the Turnpike, up to Ocala or down towards Fort Pierce in Miami and everything too. Yeah. So, but that's one of the benefits. And we haven't really gotten to a town yet that has nice Turnpike access.
Right.
And so Clermont's kind of the first that has a real easy Turnpike interchange there. I guess Winter Garden kind of does if you're in the downtown, because you've got 429 that runs right through it.
And then really north Mineola, but that's a ways away at that point, up there on 27.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good area.
Yeah, I think I really liked Clermont. It was a little too far for me.
Yeah.
Right? I think if I was looking for a place that didn't have to be as close to Disney as where I wanted, Clermont would have been probably ideal.
Well, and you commute here to Celebration too, a couple times.
Which also made it a bit of a hassle.
Yeah,
because that would be pretty difficult to do. And so but if I was going to pick a place to move, and didn't have location constraints as much, I think Clermont is great.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. I think it's better than Davenport in terms of just sort of the vibe. It's a more laid-back kind of vibe. There's way less tourists. There's no vacation. Actually, there are vacation homes in Clermont.
But not as many.
Nowhere near as many.
It feels very much like a town that still has, character and community, which is really cool.
Yes, and much more so than Davenport, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And, well, there are vacation homes in Clermont, but they're all the way back, like in this, almost off the lakes. In this.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some sprinkled everywhere. I've seen some in downtown Clermont. I've seen some by Highway 27 right there on Lake Louisa. But it's, as a whole, it's not
a main area for that.
Right.
It's more residential. So, let's see. Anything else about Clermont?
We've covered.
You're in Lake County.
Yep.
In Clermont, so you're outside of Orange County, which, I don't know, may be a good thing for some people.
Taxes are a little bit lower.
Taxes are definitely lower.
Yep. I've actually had a few people that they buy right on the border of Winter Garden and Lake County, so they're still in Clermont, as their address, but you can see the sign that says "Welcome to Winter Garden" right there, and they said we lucked out with taxes here.
Yes.
And I said, yes, you sure did.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the Oakland area, and it's a good spot to be for sure.
Yep.
All right, so that I think will wrap up our Clermont episode here at Magical Moves. Let me put in a plug for our friends over at Park Candy. I'm wearing a Park Candy shirt. Park Candy is they make shirts, they make dresses, they make bottle openers and all kinds of stuff. This is one of those really comfy shirts with the 4-way stretch material that you might have seen popularized by another shirt company named after a president, and they take out all the vowels. But Park Candy makes some great shirts. This is the Cantina shirt.
Yeah, so that's cool.
You've got a little bit of Mos Eisley feel to it, and some aliens and stuff. If you go to parkcandy.com and you use the code WDWNT at checkout, you'll save 15% off your entire order. So check them out if you want to find some really cool shirts. Parkcandy.com. Use the code WDWNT for 15% off. And then if you're intrigued by all of our discussions of moving to Orlando or Central Florida, and you're thinking maybe I want to come look at some houses next time I'm down here, then you should reach out to Eric. Eric at magicalmoves.com.
Yep.
And he or one of his team will be glad to help you.
Yep. Email me and we'll make it happen for you if Orlando is your dream place to live.
Yeah. So thanks again, Eric, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.